From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering, when the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you, until now.
The sensation you're feeling is the quickening.
I'm Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel. I've been alive for 4.5 centuries. I cannot die.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Unipod.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to another Puny Pod, a short-form podcast where I visit a specific film or comic book all by myself. And this is kind of both. This is another Patreon exclusive podcast. You guys have voted, and nobody could decide what we were going to do. We were either going to cover a Scarface comic, one of two, or one or two Highlander comics. That these are basically sequels and prequels to those original films as well. So it's going to be interesting to look at those. I've got a few others in the pipeline. I think I'll do a series of these. As soon as I've read them all, I'll put one out on the old Patreon. So I made the decision, and I decided to go, because Highlander seemed to be the most popular choice, apart from Andy, who does not like the film. It's not his bag. But everybody else seemed to be quite keen, so I've decided to pick one of the Highlander ones, and I've gone with Highlander, The American Dream. So this is a prequel to the original film in many ways. If you're unfamiliar with the Highlander franchise or the Highlander film, I'll just briefly explain it. This is for Mike of Genuine Chit Chat, as I know he's not seen the film. But it concerns a group of individuals who are born with special abilities. Not the X-Men, quite similar in a way. Outcasts, weirdos, not quite human, but not quite monsters either. Let's just call them the Immortals. And there is they are few in number. They can't have children. They have certain abilities. They can sense each other. They get more powerful each time they kill one another. A bit like Jet Li's The One sort of thing. They can only be killed by beheading them. So they all fight mostly with swords or bladed weapons because of this. And in the film, a Highlander, played by a Frenchman, and an Egyptian pretending to be a Spaniard, played by a Scotsman. They meet up after the Scotsman, Conor MacLeod, who I will be referring as throughout the entirety of this podcast, because that's the best way to refer to him, or the Highlander. So yeah, I think initially when I was a kid, I used to think, this will just be about a very particular group of Scottish people. It is a lot about two Scottish people technically, but there you go. So yeah, basically he meets up with another immortal. He explains Sean Connery is the exposition machine, and he trains him in the art of sword fighting because he was killed by another immortal initially. Not killed, but he does come back. But his first death was by the Kurgan, who's an evil immortal. Now, all the immortals are battling it out. There's various rules to this, like they must fight one-on-one, bladed weapons, they can't fight on holy ground, all this sort of stuff. There's rules and regulations to these sort of things, and most of them do follow them for the most part, but we're going to get into that. And they are awaiting the gathering, which is basically when the last few of the immortals are left, they are going to battle it out one by one to find who will win the prize, which is a very vague gift, and it always kind of has been in the Highlander franchise. I won't go into kind of the sequels and spin-offs and other stuff. We're just going to focus on the original film, talking about the original film and these kind of books and prequels and what have you. So I think the more you go outside of it, there's a lot of retcons, and Highlander 2, for example, makes them into aliens, but that's a whole other thing. But you know, that original film is really good. Cracking soundtrack, great performances, great actors. I did revisit it not so long ago, and I was like, I didn't really rate it when I was younger. I was like, I thought the sword fighting wasn't that great. You know, I'd seen better in other films, and I was like, I'm not too sure. But actually, on a revisit, it holds up really well. It's very 80s, and I like that sort of thing. So yeah, I got a real big kick out of it. So thank Max Byrne for kind of G'ing me up to watch it again, because of his enthusiasm yet again infected me. So I went back and revisited that, and it's another reason I bought these books and wanted to have a look at those and see a bit more of Connor McLeod's life before the gathering occurred in that film. Again, I won't spoil the film, but it's very good. Go check it out. And there's a few characters that will appear in this book. I'll try not to spoil the film on the whole, but I will be referencing things in the film. So spoiler alert. Okay, so The American Dream, it starts off a few days before the events of the actual film. And in 1985, I want to say, I think that's when it's set. And the Oster Vasilek, his name is referenced in the film, and I believe that you see a photo of him as well. He is a character we don't actually meet in that film, but if you know how the film ends, or if you're aware of the plot, you might kind of know what's going to happen to him within this book. Again, I won't spoil it, but he searches out Connor McLeod, who is in his antique shop with his adopted daughter Rachel. As we know in the film, he adopts her during World War II, as her whole family has died. Due to kind of Nazi stuff, that whole thing, the World War II thing, that it happened. It's horrible. It's deadly. Whatever. So he adopts her and starts to care for her. He drops in, says hello to Rachel. She recognizes him, pulls a gun out, implying that he could be, evil or deadly or something, because she recognizes him very, very, just vaguely recognizes him and goes, oh, okay. And then we flash back to the Battle of Gettysburg, which is during the Civil War, and Connor McLeod is trying to run away from a Confederate soldier called John Hook, and he manages to find some holy ground, which he believes will protect him from this character, because John Hook is also an immortal. He's a Confederate soldier, and he's got this whole battalion after him, and Connor's been shot in the heart. Even though he's immortal, it still does him some serious damage, and he's weakened because of it. But John Hook is a madman. He is said to have come over on the Mayflower, so he's almost born and bred in America, so that's kind of part of the title. We'll get to that as well. And he's kind of just made himself into the worst of the worst. Like, he is just killing for killing's sake. That's all he's about. And all of a sudden, Oster Vasilek reveals himself, and he's a monk in this monastery. He protects Connor McLeod from Hook, and Hook decides to leave, but he's like, I'll be back, because they're both kind of fighting him at the same time, and the monk is like, Oster Vasilek is like, no, that's not the rules, we can't do that. And he's like, I don't give. Connor's all about this, I don't care. He's very world weary, he doesn't want to be involved, he's seen enough bloodshed, he's lost enough loves in his life, he's done and seen it all, and he's very kind of world weary. And Oster is a monk who was a knight in Estonia around I think it's the 10th century, 11th century, and he's seen a lot of bloodshed, and he was the last of his particular people, and he decided for 400 years he was just going to be a monk. He knows all the rules, he knows what's coming, he knows every single party involved, he knows all the immortals, he knows a lot. and he's explaining he's not sure about Connor because of his world weariness. He's not sure if he's necessarily a good guy or a bad guy, or what side he will be on during the gathering, because there are evil characters out there like the Kurgan, like John Hook, and is Connor just another one? And will Oster have to take him down or take his head to be the winner of the prize necessarily, if he wants to be? He's quite an interesting character because he's obviously he's kind of repenting all the things he's done, and he's following the rules and the edicts of the immortals, whoever came up with those. I'm not super hard up on Highlander lore, so I don't really know the kind of proper backstory to a lot of the really, really early stuff. But tell me if I'm wrong. But he doesn't drink. He doesn't want to harm humans because he feels like the prize is going to change their world, be it for the worst or be it for the best. And he doesn't want to involve himself in more additional bloodshed if he can avoid it. Like, the real enemies are the other immortals who are evil and who are looking for the prize to do evil things with it, whatever the prize entails. It's still never been really that clear what the prize is. I think it's like information or psychic phenomena or whatever it may be. It is what it is. It's just the MacGuffin. It's the MacGuffin of the Highlander series, really. So whatever you want it to be, it can be. There is a remake coming out apparently with Henry Cavill. I'm sure he can do a Scottish accent, unlike some people. And from all kinds of places. As much as I love Christophe Lambert, that was a weird choice. But yeah, so Connor, who talks about his life and the way he feels and his current feelings on the world and what it does. Oster reveals his life and that sort of thing, and he's wondering again, why he lives his life. He's drinking, he's into debauchery, and Connor's like, this life is long, it's horrible. I'll take my pleasures where and when I can. Because he does know a little bit about him. He knows he's the Highlander. They call him the Highlander because that's the name of the thing. So we've got to call him that. And he knows what he's about, and he kind of keeps his ear to the ground for all the immortals, what they're doing, where they're going, and stuff. But before they can kind of get into any more chat about their kind of world views, Hook comes back and he's massacring a nearby village. So Oster and Connor have to team up to take him down. And again, this is where Oster says, I won't kill anyone else other than Hook. And he's like, oh, for God's sake. Connor has to go and take out all the other soldiers while Oster battles Hook. And Oster it's quite interesting because for all this, like, I'm going to fight on the side of right, I'm going to do this, I have these beliefs, I do that. He's actually not kind of kept up with the sword fighting, so he's a bit rusty. And the older he gets, the more rusty he gets with it. I mean, he can still do it to a point, but it's not great. It's not something he's actively like training or preparing for or doing. It's just something that is part of his world. But again, he's avoiding it and he's kind of hiding away. Like Connor says in the book, it could look like you're hiding or you're a coward or that you don't want to face everything, or you don't want to deal with all these horrible things going on or choose a side in these kind of wars and stuff. And he's like, yeah, fair enough. That's a point. I mean, Connor takes him wrestling. Obviously, Connor is a fan of wrestling because in the film, that's where we see him first, in a wrestling match, watching a wrestling match. So yeah, so in the ensuing battle, Connor manages to shoot Hook's eye out, which is technically cheating, and Oster says that is cheating. He's like, well, he cheated first because he tried to kill me on holy ground, so I think that's fair. And this actually doesn't heal properly, so basically anything above the neck is you can kind of get damaged or severely scarred. I think everything below that you're kind of immortal and kind of heal over like Wolverine to a degree. But yeah, so he has a scar now. He's missing an eye, and but he runs away, and then Connor says to Oster, "I'm going to leave. I'm going back to Europe because America's just so bloody and violent and cruel. I need to go back to the old country and kind of reestablish some roots and find myself." And that's how they split up. And again, all the while we keep flashing back to we flash back to various time periods, but also we flash back to their modern day, so they're 1985. So we flash back and they're meeting on the bridge. They're talking about how their lives have kind of developed, how things have changed, and where they're at. But then we also go back to the 1950s. So Connor is back in America. He's lived in Europe for about 80 years, and obviously World War II and everything happened. He adopted Rachel Ellenstein, I want to say is her surname. And and he's raised her in America, and he owns a building and rents it out, has the antique shop and everything. It's all there. And he comes into their lives again, and he's talking about a serial killer who's taking people's eyes out. And Monk reveals that this person is John Hook, who has never, ever changed his name. He's never hid or kept it secret who he was. He cut a bloody swath throughout history. And an FBI agent called Edward Highsmith is connecting those dots. He is putting it all together, and he knows that Connor's linked in it, and he knows that Ostra's linked to it, but he's not quite sure what the hell is going on. How can this guy be so old from the early Western days to now? How can he still be alive doing these same serial killings in the same way? He always takes someone's eye out as well. All the victims have an eye removed, which kind of indicates, he feels a bit personal about the old blinding from Connor. So Oster teams up with Connor, and they go looking for him. They manage to kind of ambush him. Oster gets injured quite badly. Well, they both get quite injured in the battle. John Hook's got this machete, and they end up fighting on the bridge and falling off the bridge. All the while, Highsmith is trying to find out more, and he's interrogating Rachel, beating her up quite violently, and he's like, I need more information. What's going on? Tell me, and he just can't get enough information. Eventually, they all kind of go their separate ways because time has to move on for these immortals, and nobody, you can't quite die. You can just narrowly escape and be alive for another time, because the story would just end, wouldn't it, if the immortals got killed straight away? But there you go. And we flash back again, or flash forward, if you will, to the 1980s again, and John Hook is in the area, and again Oster is here to try and help him kind of stop it, and he comes back to Nash, as he's known now, Connor, much like the name he's known in the film. And he's like, we've got to take him out, because this is it. This is the gathering. There's only 6 of us left. So these are the other 2 that aren't featured in the film. So there's, am I right in thinking? Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 in the film, isn't there? Yeah, there's 4. So these 2 characters, guess what? They might not just make it to the film per se. Spoilers, but yeah, I won't say exactly what happens. But if you've seen the film, you kind of get an idea. Weirdly enough, Highsmith is still here. So this is an elderly Highsmith who's been ruined. No one believed his stories about these immortals because he'd never had any evidence or anything. So he's been dismissed, and he's working for some rich guy who has a curious hobby, basically, about these immortals and theories and stuff. And he's trying to kind of like, I need this, I need more time, I need more resources. He's like, I don't care, you're a lunatic, no one's going to believe you, you're an idiot. So yeah, they basically decide to team up. They talk about their lives, they talk about everything, how they've changed each other, and how times have changed. Like the monk, Austin, now has a motorbike, and he was like, well, I always kind of wanted one ever since they were created, but now I was like, we only live once, so why the hell not? So he buys it. So they feed off each other. It's kind of a fractious friendship, or I wouldn't say they're frenemies, but they're not exactly close, because Connor says at the beginning of the book he doesn't want friends because he's just going to have to probably have to kill them anyway if they try and kill him during the gathering, and that's the whole deal. So that's why they kept each other at arm's length, and even the monk who wore his robes for forever, he stops wearing them around the 1980s because he just thinks nobody recognizes it. Everyone thinks I'm a priest. What's the point? So yeah, he does that, and then the John Hook who is, again, he's been giving cards out and he's letting them know where he is, and he's like, come and get me, come and have me. And Connor goes early to fight him and leaves the monkey out because he goes, you probably won't win this fight. Like, it's just, you're probably not going to win it. But Hook lays a trap for Oster. And, well, I won't reveal it, but let's say there's a familiar face turns up at the end there. And again, if you've seen the film, you know what's kind of coming. So, yes, it's a good read. It's fun. It's interesting. It's nice to kind of see a bit more. It's nice to see kind of a more religious take on it, because a lot of these characters are all kind of, in the first film, are all a bit like over the top and like, and they're all kind of very troubled characters. And I think, and again, like, Oster is troubled in his own way, but it's interesting to see that he's gone to, he's found God and found religion and wants to kind of avoid conflict if he can, where he can, but obviously knows that, and that's another thing, and that's why he's avoided all these conflicts, is he doesn't want to kill humans, But that makes for kind of an interesting, complex and conflicted character, very different, a nice kind of, a very different kind of opposite or an antithesis of Connor, who has lived a life, has loved and lost and various other things, where this monk is really kind of not. Almost, it was like it's always about this, but then also he's not really kept up the training or kept up his edge. He's like Connor said, do you still have that edge? When was the last time you beheaded someone without a second's thought? Did you ever? He's like, yeah, I did that in hundreds and hundreds of years ago and stuff, and and that's why Connor goes on his own, because he just thinks it's just going to be a liability, and it's not somebody he wants to necessarily kill. And I think he is quite. It's an interesting dynamic for those characters. I quite enjoyed all the references to Queen's soundtrack as well, like Who Wants to Live Forever, and they it's a kind of magic, and most of Connor's lines have that kind of cheeky winking kind of reference to those. But I really like it. The book I've not mentioned before was written by Brian Ruckley. This is a IDW comic, so they got the license at this point. The other book I've got, Way of the Sword, is another prequel to the original film, and that is by Dynamite Comics. So I'll get to that very shortly. But yeah, I thought the writing was good. It was interesting. There was good story. I like the villain. I like Hook as a character as well. John Hook was interesting. So yeah, it was nice to revisit that world and kind of see like, again, because that was one of the more interesting parts of Highlander for me, was seeing those scenes from different time periods. So we do get a bit more of that, and I'm glad we do. But then obviously I like that it comes right up until like the beginning of the film, like, so it will track quite well. So yeah, I think that was it's a really fun book. It's really interesting, and I love the idea of the American dream and recreating yourself is kind of all the way through it. Like, why did he come back to America? He's a changed man. Connor now is in America. Hook has made himself into the man he wants to be, which is a serial killing. But yeah, like he's become what he feels he should have become, and in a way the monk kind of has as well, but is also kind of. Again, that's what's so interesting and about these characters. They're all so complex and conflicted, and have so many levels and layers, and it's really interesting. It was a really interesting read. It might not be for everyone. It's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of kind of exposition and references and things, and there might not be as many kind of sword battles as you might want. But I find it interesting. I like kind of period pieces, these sci-fi, fantasy, action adventure things that kind of a little bit of a period piece, and I feel like Highlander's a good version of that. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Rachel gets a bit more development as well. She's not really in the film that much. She's kind of a confidant, and adopted daughter. So we see a bit more of that. And she's got a bit more of an edge to her. You know, we see her kind of developing over the years. We don't see the adoption of her because that's depicted in the film, but we do see when she's into womanhood in the 50s, and then when she's into kind of her elderly period, let's call it, in the 80s. But we see that, you know, she has a lot of agency. She loves Connor, and she's convincing the monk Oster that he actually does care. He's not become jaded and weary as the monk thinks he has. She's like, he does care. He really cares about me, and you know, he's lonely and he suffers. And who would care? Why would anybody experience that if they didn't care? You know. So that was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, that's Highlander, the American Dream. Oh, no, I wanted to mention one more thing. The covers by another female artist. The covers are by Claudia Gironi. Now, these are really cool. These are photorealistic, and she gets Christophe Lambert's look absolute down pat. Like it looks like a photo of him. I think it's brilliant. It's amazing. All of her covers are like that as well. They've always got him in it. Yeah, they're a little bit blurry and photorealistic, yet they have these kind of beautiful streaks of colour, like modern art, like a bloody Jackson Pollock painting. There's all these multicoloured kind of rainbow stripes going down it. I fucking love them. Just Google the Highlander American Dream covers and you'll see what I mean. They're brilliant. I think they're really good. There's one where he's just wearing a hat and a sword, which is really good. There's one where he's just running towards you with a sword and a bloody shirt, and there's one where he's clashing swords with Hook, and yeah, it's fucking great. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. I don't know what the way of the sword would be like. Maybe I'll prefer it more, but I will get to that. But speaking of an American Dream, I think the next comic I'll be tackling features a man who loved the American Dream with a vengeance. We're going to be looking at, believe it or not, the comic book sequel to Scarface. And if you've seen that film, you're going to have to suspend your disbelief a little bit in regards to this. But the video game was also a sequel, I believe. I never played it. Kind of wish I had, but there you go. So yeah, you're going to have to suspend your disbelief again. Again, partial spoilers for that film as well. But yeah, we'll see what that is like. It's written by John Layman, who was the writer of Chew, who I got to interview as well back at Malta Comic Con. You can go back and listen to that. He's a lovely guy. I've still got him on Twitter and Facebook. Genuine guy, absolutely loves his cats as well. Like that's what I always see him posting about more than anything else, more than comics, more than anything else. He adopts and loves cats, so he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He's got a lovely wife as well. Everyone connected, and that event was really, really good. So yeah, so that's it. So I'm gonna do that. Like I said, I'm gonna do a few of the kind of comic book based sequels and prequels. I've got a comic book for The Thing. So John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think will be interesting. I've got one for Total Recall as well, Life on Mars. The Thing comic is called The Thing from Another World, obviously, to avoid rights issues with Marvel and their character, The Thing. But it's an exact sequel, picks up where the last film left off, which, again with Life on Mars as well, it might, ruin the ambiguosity or the ambiguousness of those endings, which I really like. Both of those films have amazing ambiguous endings, so hopefully these don't sour them, or we'll find out. It's something I'm looking into. But yeah, I'm going to do Scarface, then another Highlander prequel, then a Scarface prequel, and then I'll look at those two, and we'll see how we get on. But I bought them during lockdown, so I thought, might as well just read them. You guys want to hear what I have to say about comics. You like this sort of stuff, so I will do that. And then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I know. You guys. I don't know if you guys have been enjoying the early releases. I wasn't going to do the Carnage one, but I just thought I've got it ready. It's a week before. I might as well just release it early. But yeah, I think most of you guys just listen when it comes out normally anyway on your preferred podcatcher of choice, which is fine. So I think I'm going to do a bit more of the original stuff again for you. I know that's what Mike wants, so he's been very vocal. So I'll be doing more of that soon. So yeah, so there you go. That is Highlander: The American Dream. So yeah, come back and we'll do a little Scarface next time. All right, bye bye.